Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Rob Rivera with Who's On First, the show. And today I have Dave Ducat. Is it?
Close enough. We'll call it Save UCAT.
He's representing Umpires Without Borders. So introduce yourself there, Dave.
Hey, hi, folks. I'm Dave Ducat, and as Robert said, I'm the founder of and still run kind of a solo enterprise at this point. Umpires Without Borders. My good friend Brandon Lawson talked recently on your podcast about it, and I'm here hopefully to give you more info.
Okay. So Umpires about Without Borders. What is that about? What do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are a foundation that provides umpire protective gear for baseball and softball, as well as umpire clothing, shoes, accessories, whatever we get in donations. We'll talk more about that hopefully in a minute. We provide that to folks around the world, particularly those in areas who are unable to get this stuff relatively easily, which is a very large part of the world. I mean, we're here in the U.S., we're blessed obviously with a lot of manufacture and distribution of these things. Folks in Japan, China, South Korea, it's where they're primarily made, but that's really only a quarter of the world. There's a lot of the world who just simply can't get these things and who want and need them. So that's what I do.
Okay. So what made you start something like this?
Yeah, it's a great story, and it's a funny story. So I'm sadly I'm active on Facebook and all the umpire forums and things, and I think you and I have interacted there. That's where I met a lot of folks that you've had on your podcast, as well as just I keep in the umpire circles. And in 2016, a gentleman reached out to me asking me just out of the blue if I could help him with umpire training, and I was like, well, sure, I guess. I mean, why did you ask me? And where are you, do you need this to happen? And he said, well, I'm in Nepal. And I'm like, wait, Nepal is in the country of Nepal? And he was, yeah, that's exactly where I'm in Nepal. And I found you through various people on Facebook. And I understand that you can help me out. And I'm like, well, okay, I had no idea they played baseball in Nepal, honestly. Nepal is, 15 plus thousand feet in the air, in a very far place away from where you normally think baseball is. I mean, granted, it's close to China, that's fair, but I mean, you don't think about baseball in the upper altitudes of the world. And it turns out that Nepal has a very active baseball community. Every major city around, including Kathmandu, has a league and has teams, and they all compete against each other. It's a very it's like they're their adopted second or third national sport. It's amazing. I never figured that would be the case. And so I researched into how could I get some stuff to this guy, and it turns out that it was just completely cost prohibitive. I mean, it would have cost me $4,000 to send a small Home Depot box to Kathmandu or something. So unfortunately that didn't work out directly. I did send him some books and things that were relatively inexpensive, but we kept in touch, and it dawned on me at that moment, I'm like, well, wait a minute, if this person's in Nepal of all places, then there's got to be baseball in other places in the world that people that just frankly I would never have known about. And so I started, kind of doing some research and asking around and talking to people. And it turns out, and again, and we'll talk a little bit, I'm sure, about this, but it turns out that, another person reached out to me uh, named Oluwafemi Aina, who you probably know from your discussions with Brandon, right?
Right.
From Nigeria. He reached out to me kind of within about a year later and asked me if I could provide any help. And because again, like I said, I'm kind of on the Facebook forums. And it turns out I'm like, I'm going to try to do something here. And so originally I had collected a bunch of gear from just here. I'm in Chicago proper. So in the Chicago area, I'd collected a bunch of gear. I sent him 4 Home Depot boxes of gear. And if you go out to the umpireswithborders.com website, not to be a cheap plug, but there you go, umpireswithborders.com. You'll see pictures of him and his folks wearing the gear that they got from me. And it turned into something that really became kind of a passion project, honestly. Just by seeing his reaction, and of course, if you've talked with him, you know how just absolutely just passionate he is about baseball and about softball and about umpiring and about America and things. It's hard not to be completely swayed by that passion. So he sort of catalyzed me based on that initial interaction to go forward and do this. And I've been very fortunate to be able to send gear many places around the world.
Okay. So, I mean, how do you get the gear? Is it donations? Or you buy it
Yeah, it's
personally?
it's
Or
all donations, and I've been fortunate to work with some of the folks like Ray Brownlee at Ump Life, for example, you probably know very well. Jim Kirk over at Umpire has sponsored us. I've been able to get some corporate sponsorship that way, but really it's been, frankly, donations of gear from people who are willing to just who are interested in helping out the idea. I've gotten a little bit of money through GoFundMe activities and stuff, but frankly, it comes out of my pocket. So all the gear's in my garage. It's, sitting here on shelves. I try to keep it organized so I can get to it. Again, it's still kind of a labor of love, that way. But yes, people have been very, very gracious. I've gotten donations from all over the United States, from Canada, um, and then I've actually gotten some donations from folks in Europe when I went over there to umpire several times over the last several years, and I've brought back donations from them. So I'm very grateful. And the organization is very grateful for their support.
so, I mean, if somebody wants to donate equipment to you, how would they get it to you?
Yeah, there's really it's frankly, we have a form on the website that you can click and you can identify what you want to donate. If you need a tax letter, so for example, we can provide a tax letter to you if you want to, put that on your taxes or as a deduction.
Right.
Um, then we just coordinate. Usually, so I have a direct shipping address. Um, Again, I'm a one man operation, so one person operation, I should say. So if we can work out a deal where we can split shipping, or if you can pick up shipping as well, that's really helpful for me.
Okay.
But I do try to work with people. I realize that donations are a big part. That's what we get from people. And so if I can make it easier, I will. Most folks have been very gracious in picking up the majority of shipping for donations. But yes, you would ship it directly to me.
And if somebody wants to send you or donate $20 or $10, how would they?
Yeah, there's a GoFundMe link in both our Facebook group, which we have a Facebook page as well. It's just Umpires Without Borders under Facebook. And
Okay.
then we also have the same link on the website. So the
Okay.
website, there's a whole donation area where you can donate either gear or money or time. I'm also looking for people to help volunteer, just, doing things like updating the website if you can, folks who are in the Chicago area or stopping by to help organize and move things around. I mean, I'm constantly doing inventory, so it's helpful to have people, bodies to help.
Okay. So it's not just equipment, it's not just money, it's somebody to reach out, help you, maybe organize.
Absolutely, I'll take any help I can get.
Any help on the website, maybe a little
Yeah, yeah. I
designer
mean,
out there.
the
Give you
other thing
some
too, no, the other thing too, and thank you for asking, is if folks don't want to donate money directly, but they want to donate something like bins, right? Like the typical like tote bins, right? I could use tote bins. I have so much stuff that it's becoming even more complicated just to go out and buy bins for it.
wow.
I've got, and again, this is because of the gracious donations from the people who are out there, right? But I've got probably 25 big sort of Home Depot tote bins full of just uniforms,
Wow.
shirts, pants, shirts of every color, shirts of every designation, shirts, I even have Albeco shirts like your picture there, right? Which I used to wear Albecos back in the day too. So I'm with you. But I mean, I've even got Albeco shirts. I've got stuff from all over the world, and people again have been very gracious, both baseball and softball. I mean, heather pants, charcoal pants. I've got all of it, but it just takes up a lot of room.
Right.
Most of what I get in donations, frankly, is clothing. because again, lot of umpires, that's stuff that was either given to them or they got as part of some of an organization, and it's less financially challenging for them to let that go. But I do also get gear, and gear.
What's this one of the strangest things you've ever gotten as far
Well,
as
it's funny you asked that question because I up until probably about a year ago, I didn't really get anything that was out of the ordinary. I mean, I got some like other sport, like I got soccer official stuff, like flags and stuff, just thrown in a bin.
right?
But 6 months ago, roughly, I got a person here in the Chicago area whose father was a long time. When I say long time, I mean I've been umpiring for over 40 years. So I consider myself old in a long time. This man umpired for like 60 years, and he was primarily in the softball. So he was originally ASA certified, and then I think when ASA converted to or went to USA or whatever, he sort of started getting out of the organization, then pretty much stopped. But I mean, he has, I kid you not, I've got tote bins full of like flip coins,
Oh wow.
pins. I've got like other sort of like sort of reward type stuff.
Okay.
I've gotten all kinds of just weirdness.
Okay.
I'll tell you this though. I did get, and I kept this one, sorry. I did get right here a Japanese plate brush
Wow. What does that look like? Does it?
in a
It's like
donation.
a
Yeah,
little
and
holster.
yeah, with the
Wow.
holster.
Look at that.
And
I've never seen anything like that. That's
And the
amazing.
cool, I used to have one. I had a different version of the same idea. I just didn't have a holster, and I
Right.
loaned it to somebody, and it went with them, and I don't remember who I loaned it to. So I lost it, and so I was kind of grateful to see this come in. I actually just came in not too long ago,
Wow.
um, because I've been looking for one for a long time, and they're hard to find. You can find them. I mean, you can find these. You can find this on Amazon now, but the original sort of Japanese, like Mizuno, not Mizuno, JDC, I think,
Right.
brushes. You had to go find someone in Japan who actually had them.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. All right. So
I've gotten. I did get the one that can do. I did get some Japanese. I got some Japanese base shoes and plate shoes. Um, what else did I get
I
that
know the
was?
Japanese now are going to a white.
Yeah. I saw that.
I
I
just
think I saw
recently
that in
saw
one of
that.
your Facebook posts. But
Yeah, I just
they're going to the Albeco shirts with like a logo and white shoes.
white.
Um,
I was like,
that's interesting.
I found that interesting myself. I was like, wow. It's funny.
Yeah,
I
that's
just bought some base sneakers, um, and they're actually nice. They're black with the little gray speckles and stuff. They're
oh
really
sure.
cool, and they're not for baseball. They're for pickleball.
Pickleball. There you go.
And I was like, wow. And they look like great umpire shoes because a lot of the equipment, it's a lot of the base shoes are really ugly
Oh
and
yeah, no
it's
question about it.
uncomfortable. And these
Yeah,
were actually really interesting. So I picked them up and I'm like, hey man, I wore them. I'm like, these are pretty good. I
there
like
you go. I'll have
they're
to
really
check those
good.
out.
Yeah, yeah. But
I did, again, I like many umpires, not kind of off topic, but I'm kind of I'm kind of an umpire fashionista too, right? I like all the things. And so, I did buy the Mizuno base shoes. I like them a lot, but they got a lot of white on them. So if you're in an association that doesn't allow that, or if you're just on clay fields all the time,
yeah.
they're
And
exceptionally hard to clean, and which was okay. I mean, I don't do as much ball as I used to, but unfortunately, but I yes, anything with less white on it would be really valuable.
right, absolutely. So I mean now you've gotten all this stuff. I mean, who are the people that are asking the most from you? I know Ofemi has for in Nigeria,
Yeah,
and there's what other strange countries? I mean, you got Nepal, you got
yep,
Nigeria. What other strange countries where people go like, what? There's baseball there?
yeah. Well, I'll answer that two ways. One, so I've shipped product, I've shipped stuff to. I have to go down the list now. Nigeria, South Africa, Mali, Benin, Cameroon, Argentina, Venezuela, El Salvador, Canada, and a couple places in the U.S. most of my requests now are coming primarily from Latin America, so South or Central America. Um, Venezuela, particularly, has been very recent. A lot of folks there. Um, and then I had Honduras. I sent something to Honduras too. I should have
Honduras,
mentioned
yes.
that. And then I'm also getting a lot of requests for going back to the Femi conversation really quickly. In 2023, well, 2022, 23. So with COVID and everything else, right? Um, Part of my relationship with Femi, I think Brandon talked about it when he was on your show, was that I sponsored him, or I should say, Umpires Without Borders sponsored him to come to the U.S. and attend Wendelstedt, and specifically, he was yeah. Thank you. Hey, shout out to Hunter because Hunter worked out a deal with me so that we could split some of those costs, and he took on some of it, and I took care of the flight. I took care of uh to half tuition and some other things, and had some housing costs, which, to be perfectly candid, was a lot of money, a lot more money than I intended. But I was very fortunate in the years prior to get some bonuses and things in my real job. Shout out
Okay.
to my
Yeah.
real job. Um, where I basically footed the bill myself, right? Whatever I could foot, and things like that. And I really wanted to create a scholarship program so that I could get folks from all over the world to come to the U.S. and come to Wendelstedt specifically for umpire school. Uh, Femi was the first, and he was the first recipient of a scholarship program that I'd set up. And he's the first native African and Nigerian to attend and graduate Wendelstedt umpire school. And while he didn't get a contract, I mean, he certainly got a great deal of experience. He got an award. I was there at graduation. I got to see him graduate, which was really fun. And then, of course, he's taken that back to Nigeria, and he wants to come back. So I'm looking forward to seeing him come back to the States. And I had hoped that through donations and corporate sponsors, particularly, I could make that a regular thing. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to. It's just been cost prohibitive for me. But I do get a lot of asks, especially from Africa, because they all know the story, right? Everybody, I mean, it seems like the entire continent of Africa knows the story of Femi, which he's not very shy, so I'm sure he's told half of the continent. But I do get a lot of asks about that, and I hope to be able to bring it back in the future. It's just not something I can do right now.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's amazing story. This is incredible. I mean, so I mean, 10 years ago, had somebody told you you'd be doing this right now, what would you have told them?
I would have said, I don't know, I don't know if I've got the time for that, let alone is that really a thing. And I'll tell you the other thing I should have mentioned too. And this kind of what gave me kind of a kickstart. Well, I won't say kickstart. It gave me a bunch of. So as you may be aware, if you're not, your audience probably isn't. I'm very active in the Little League program, particularly. Most of my time now is spent in that program. I mean, I've done other levels of ball up to semi-professional ball. I've done college, Division III, JUCO. I've done a bunch of things, right, over the
Right.
course of my life. I don't have time to do a lot of that stuff anymore. And frankly, I have a real job that demands most of my time. So where I can, I just simply just kind of give back to the Little League program. It's where I started. It's where a lot of umpires started. A lot of players started. And so I just kind of keep doing that.
Yeah.
But as part of that program, I was able to go overseas for 4 different years, including last year, to umpire baseball and softball, umpire baseball or softball in Holland, and then umpire baseball in Poland, particularly in Kutno, Poland,
Right.
and was able to see teams from virtually every Eastern and Western European country. Poland, Hungary, Lithuania, Czech Republic, Croatia, Ukraine. Even during the war, I got to see 2 teams for Ukraine this year, and so to see this explosion, for lack of a better term, of baseball and softball in Europe and in countries, Eastern Bloc countries, where you just wouldn't expect it to be even sanctioned, let alone growing in popularity. It really catalyzed me to keep doing this thing. And so, yeah, 10 years ago, absolutely not. My goals were just to get over to Europe and do something. then that experience really just frankly told me this is the right thing to do to get things in the hands of people and continue to grow the games of baseball and softball,
Yeah.
as whatever I can do, and that's what I can do.
I remember doing an international game, Little League, 12-year-olds, and I believe it was South Africa, and the kids that had come were from a very poor area.
Mhm.
And when they came here to the United States, I was umpiring, and the parents were just in awe of the baseballs. And when I tell you
Um,
like in awe, like they didn't understand. They said, "How do you get the ball so white?" I go, like, what do
yeah.
you mean? No. And they say, yeah, how do you clean it? Because we can't clean our baseballs. We don't know. We have all these raggedy baseballs.
Mhm.
And I'm like, they're new baseballs. And they just, what do you mean they're new? Well, they're new. Every game we start with 3 brand new baseballs. And
Yeah.
what? You don't clean them? And I was like, no, we don't. I mean, it was just to see their faces like you were lying. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
what do you use brand new baseballs? Yeah, that's what we use. We start the game
Well,
with 3 brand new baseballs. Absolutely.
sure. If I do you have time for a quick South Africa story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so again, this last July, I was over in Poland as part of the program. Again, I was both umpiring as an evaluator supervisor. And it was the first time South Africa had been to that regional tournament in many years, in over a decade probably. And they traveled like 22 hours in planes just to get to Warsaw. Then they had another like 5 or 6 hours worth of travel just because of trains, planes, and automobile stuff. Right. So they were pretty tired getting into the tournament. I have to tell you, they were first of all, the kids were absolutely phenomenal, just phenomenal kids. They were just excited and happy to be there. But I got to tell you, the coaches and managers, 3 of them, there was not a single bad word said by any of them for anything. Not for play on the field, not for calls on the field, not for play of their players, nothing. They were the most gracious, thankful, appreciative, but more importantly, positive coaches coaching their own kids. And I'll give you just really quickly. So they unfortunately they didn't do particularly well. They were 3 and out, and that was their kind of that's how they unfortunately they performed. But in the last game that they played, they were down by I don't know 6 or 8 runs, something like that. And the pitcher just was having a hard time. He was just having an awful time just finding the strike zone. He couldn't have found the strike zone with a seeing eye dog. It was just bad, right? And and even on in this at this point in time, it was a nose to toes, door to door strike zone, and he just wasn't doing well, and his body language, everything was just slumped the whole bit, right? And the coach, the manager of the team yells from the dugout, "You know why you're not pitching so well? Because you're not smiling." And it was in that moment where the whole audience, everybody heard it. Both teams heard it, and the kid just started laughing. And it's like the kid was a new kid, right? And that's the kind of thing that I think we take for granted here in the States, right? We just take for granted, everybody understand or expects that kids are going to play to a certain level, and you've coached them and all the things, right? But to see that happen when they're not going to win, they know they're not going to win. This
Right.
is their last game, right? And the kids just getting down on themselves, but they were that way the entire tournament. That was the way they were the whole time. So I asked, I actually wrote them a letter, and I signed something for them because and they gave me a hat and they signed it, which is cool. But I mean, it was just one of those experiences where that's why I do this Umpires Without Borders thing, honestly, right? If I can get umpire gear to someone who can have an effect on that game and those kids,
Absolutely.
why wouldn't I do it? Granted, it's not cheap. I mean, my biggest costs in this foundation are shipping and storage, but shipping is by far much more
Right.
costly. And there's a couple of folks I work with. Brandon may have mentioned that there's some folks that he's worked with to get some baseballs and other standard sort of equipment to
Right.
Africa. Gerald Hall, I know Coach Hall. I've worked with him a little bit. There's an organization out of Wisconsin called Angels in the Outfield, I think,
Okay,
that I worked with recently to get some stuff over to, and they focus on Africa specifically.
right.
So I've worked with them a little bit, but it's still, I mean, it's still expensive. I don't care what anybody says. It's just hard to get stuff, especially to places like Nigeria, which frankly, customs is not exactly the easiest thing to get through, nor the most above board thing. It's fairly corrupt, and so
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and you have to kind of expect that you're going to have losses. So send more and expect less, kind of thing. But that's
Yeah.
what happens.
I've had instances where people have sent equipment for not only for umpires but for players,
Sure,
bats, helmets, and stuff. And then when they get to the country, they get heavily taxed over there,
exactly.
and
That's
and
right.
they
Or
can't
just
afford.
stolen.
Yeah, they can't afford to get taxed, so then it gets confiscated
Yep.
after a
Yeah.
30 days. They confiscate it, and
Yes.
then the equipment is gone, and
That's
these
right.
kids wind up back with nothing, uniforms,
That's right.
helmets that have been sent. I remember a gentleman was telling me about baseball bags for the players to put their equipment bags and stuff, and it was a shame. It was a little disheartening to
It's
hear.
very disheartening, but
It,
you know what? If we don't try, we don't know, and it doesn't
yeah,
happen, right?
yeah,
So we just got to keep doing it and keep after it. And that's, and I gotta say again, shout out to Femi, right? Femi, as a representative of baseball for Africa, but certainly for Nigeria, he is on me all the time. Like he is literally, he's in my ear all the time. Not that he needs to be, because it's like I don't think about him, but you know,
right.
he's on me all the time, and that's good. I mean, it shows the dedication of a number of people, you, me, Brandon, many people in the world that are trying to do the right things. And I do want to give another shout out to Brandon, honestly, because um, Wounded Warrior Umpire Academy in particular has asked to partner with me, and I'm hoping that we can work something together, and we haven't quite figured it out yet. But Brandon's and John Crosser have been really at the kind of core of that,
Okay,
and I'm really grateful for them. I'm grateful for, as mentioned, Ump Life and Ray Brownlee, Hunter in the umpire school, Jim Kirk over Umpire, and then Greta Langaheny, right, of Level Ump. I don't know if
okay,
you from yeah, yeah, she's a two-time Winchester graduate, and she and her organization, through the promotion of women and non-male umpires in the business, we've actually starting to work together as well. So I'm really grateful for their support, as well as anybody and everybody who has donated, whether time, money, or just even thought. And I really appreciate the time being on your show,
yes, yes.
and appreciate the interest in the foundation.
Okay. All right. Well, Dave, listen, thank you for being on, and I appreciate it. I wish you luck. Anything I can do for you, let me know. And I'll be
Well,
more than glad to reach out wherever I can go. It's been amazing. I never thought I'd even think about Umpires Without Borders. I hear Doctors Without Borders. I hear about Dentists Without Borders,
yeah.
Umpires Without Borders. Who would have thunk it? I'm sure.
Exactly. Well, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And this alone is a great experience, and I'm really grateful for having me. And yeah, if your listeners out there want to, even just learn more about what we do, again, there's a Facebook group, Umpires Without Borders. Is just facebook.com/Umpires Without Borders, or you can go to www.umpireswithoutborders.com and get our website as well. Thanks again, Robert. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you're out there, you can help Dave with money, with equipment, with just some time. Maybe somebody out there is good, really good with the computer, can help him out with his website, get a little fancier with the Facebook, whatever we can do. And the baseball umpire community, we're always brothers, we're always sisters. We get together, we're a team. There's an offense, there's a defense, and then there's the umpires. Always, those are the teams. All right. Everybody see what you can do. And remember, thank you, Dave, for being on. Everybody, remember, keep swinging.
If you like the show, please do me a favor. Subscribe. Right. You see it? It's right there. Subscribe, share, like, and don't forget, put that bell on. Because I'm dinging when I put something else on, all right?